What's going on, family? Back with another JT's Mixtape, episode number 38. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
I have got a podcast sponsor. I was happy to partner with Modern Roots Life, and this is really cool because it's a Christian company. Modern Roots Life, they provide natural health supplements, natural salts, beef liver, magnesium, copper, lots of things. Natural, third-party tested supplements. And I think for me, I often complain about being very tired and having a bit of brain fog trying to do everything that we're trying to do. So I just started my regime. And so I'm excited to see how it works out because I think like you guys in this community that we don't really want to go to the doctor anymore. And I'm not saying you'll never have to, but I'm saying that if I can be more healthy, then I'm doing my best to try to do that now. Physically and spiritually and mentally. So if you guys want to check out Modern Roots Life, check out the link in my description. People often ask how they can support me. Well, I think it's really cool if you can support me by supporting people that support me. And you get something in return. And obviously being healthy is a pretty good return. Brian, what's going on, brother?
Oh, nothing much, dude. I got the website up. I have shirts for sale. And Ancient Angels shirts.
Excellent. Well, yeah, tell me what kind of shirts you got. Like, what do they say on them?
Oh, well, so we've got one that says, I'd rebuke that in Jesus' name, which is, I just thought it was kind of funny. And then we have, it's demons, bro. And then we have another one that's Ancient Angels. So we've got 3 shirts, and they're all black right now. I will be adding other colors when I run out of the black shirts, probably, as I go along. But, as it grows, I mean, it's cool. And a sticker pack, which, by the way, JT, I forgot to mention, I got to ask you, I got to make you a sticker pack.
Yeah, I'm down
cool.
for that. I'm down for that.
with your emblem, and then I made a few stickers. And next shirt, one of the stickers I might turn into a shirt. It was like Noah, the original conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, excellent.
That's a pretty good one. Right now it says Noah was a conspiracy theorist until it rained, and then I got another one. I think it was like, oh yeah, I believe in dinosaurs. Oh no, wait, I believe in dinosaurs. I believe they can't swim. And that was the other one. And it had like Noah's Ark.
Excellent. I love it, man. I love it. I mean, obviously you've been teasing this for a long time, and finally you're telling the truth now that they're available.
I know. Tell the truth now, finally. It took forever, but I got it. Finally got it.
Yeah, I feel like that I can't be too hard on you because I remember for a while I had shirts and then I had no website. So I had no means to actually sell them. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of teasing that, they're going to be available soon. They're going to be available soon. Kind of like the dispensationalists think soon is.
Kind of like this. Yeah, right.
Soon could mean any time or could mean 2,000 years. So
could be.
Technically soon was correct. It was not soon. Actually. But you know what I would say that what's funny is that I love that. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, Brian. I know I've shared some videos, and I know you have probably posted them on your story on like Instagram. That whole idea of like the dispensational theology is getting clowned on, deservedly clowned on. And I feel like that, so much of this stuff where I believe that that's the whole, one of my life verses is Romans 8:28, God use all things together for our good for those who love him are called to his purpose.
Yeah.
So you think like, even there's lots of bad things going on. But through those bad things, it is revealing people like kind of the fallacies with certain theologies about how that if 1948 Israel was biblical prophecy, which leads to the end of the world, and then people are kind of seeing like every war that every one of these. See, this is the one. I'm telling you, this is the one that leads to the rapture. And then when inevitably the rapture does not come, people are saying, I don't know. I don't. It's like It is funny, like some of those AI videos, which I think is I said on my live stream, it's kind of a bit scary because the AI videos are getting very good.
Dude.
It almost feels like hopefully it's not going to put us as content creators out of business because they are so good.
Bro, I think it's already, I don't know, man. I think AI it's already the end. Like people, a lot of people, you missed the boat. Like, like it's getting to the point where it's like, dude, I'm revamping the Ancient Angels documentary because it's going on Amazon Prime. So I was like, you know what? Since I had to put it on Amazon Prime, I'm going through and I'm AIing all of the art that I originally created, the still shots, and I'm just making it AI art, and I'm revamping the whole thing and then adding some stuff to it before I put it on Amazon. And like, dude, the AI stuff that I can do is like it's insane. It's so incredible. It is like it's so phenomenally incredible. I'm just like blown away.
It's cool, but it's also obviously very scary. And I'm sure lots of people in this community think it's the devil. So I know they think it's even scarier. But I mean, from just a practical perspective of like just making content, that when people can get ChatGPT to write them a script, and now they have these video programs that can make those scripts into video. Yeah, I think it always comes down to, though, there's never going to be a substitute for real Holy Spirit filled Christians to give their perspectives, but still,
Yeah.
it is a little unnerving, especially when it's like bite-sized, like 90-second reels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, like the thing is, I think, I don't know, dude. I think that AI, like it was created by, I think it was totally demonically inspired and created. And to be completely honest, a lot of it came from that country that we don't ever talk about with the little hat people. And that's
Yeah,
where
that
a lot of
country
this
we never
came from.
talk about. I think we
Yeah,
talk. I'm
yeah,
sure
we-
from somebody's perspective, we talk about them a lot.
I'm trying to keep them. I'm trying to keep the trolls off of your algorithm, bro.
With that being said, that little country over there that the U.S. gives so much money to, we're going to talk about that. But I've been really I've been really torn this week because, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys noticed, it's very difficult to come up with a sufficient amount of videos to talk about every week as we've been doing this. Now this is like 38 weeks of doing this. That sometimes I'm like, whoa, what are we going to talk about? Is there a lot of good videos? And then so there's obviously the topic du jour. And I mean, it's not because people love this topic, but it's just because this is the news, is the Epstein stuff. So we're obviously going to talk to the Epstein stuff, but I never really wanted JT's mixtape to just be
Political.
whatever the headline is of the day, because it's like the community we're in. I know you can go to every kind of like political guide to talk about Epstein, but we have to talk about it. I mean, of course, I said, we all have our thoughts on that, but just to preface that, we will talk about it, but I'm going to push that to the end of the show, just in case we get into some dangerous territory about talking about the little hats. We can talk about it more freely, but we're going to push that to the end of the podcast because I know that probably most people like JT's mixtape because they like talking about old world stuff. It's like talking about it's demons, bro. They like talking about metallurgy, old world tech, symbolism and things. And that is kind of my favorite topic. So with that being said, let's go to one of our favorite topics, the moon landing.
Oh,
Did they really land on the moon?
oh, I love it.
There
I
are
love it.
4 incontrovertible proofs that we didn't go to the moon. Each one by itself would prove it in a court of law. Now, I'm a filmmaker. A filmmaker's job is to make fake scenes look real. They claim that on the moon it's 20 times brighter than a desert on Earth at noon because there's no atmosphere. So the last thing you would need in a picture on the moon would be electrical lighting. This is a picture I took outside in sunlight. You can do this yourself, and you can see the shadows always run parallel. It's mathematically and scientifically impossible for shadows in sunlight to ever intersect. Impossible. Is a picture they claim was from the last, quote, mission to the moon, where an astronaut shadow is at 12 o'clock and a rock 5 feet away is intersecting at 9 o'clock at 90 degrees. That is an electrical light that is very, very close to those objects. That proves in a court of law that picture on the right was taken with a very close electrical light, which means they're on Earth, which means they did not go to the moon. That's it. We just proved the moon landing was fake in one photograph.
I'd like to see his other proofs, but yeah, I totally agree with that completely. I've seen that, and I'm like, I've thought the same exact thing. I was like, bro, there is no, like, the way that shadow is, it's very obvious that it's got a really bright lighting in multiple different angles, like very obvious. There's no way that would happen like that.
Yeah, you know what they say? Space is the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Was that Stanley Kubrick?
You know what else is interesting is Red Hot Chili Peppers. Isn't that line from that song?
Yeah, that's Californication.
Bro, how much of what they said in that song have we found out is like real? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you know what? I probably should insert this video in there. I can't believe I haven't ever played this video. Was our friend Madeline, that conspiracy girl? She had probably one of the most viral videos I've ever seen on like all platforms, where she took it apart like kind of line by line. She blew up on everything. She went from obscurity to internet famous doing that. And yeah, that song is pretty. Yeah, there's a lot to it. Is that demons? Is that kind of a CIA kind of like revelation of the method thing, or is it both?
Bro, I think it's demonic prophecy at its finest, and I think it was just like bragging. It was bragging. The demons were just like bragging the fact that they own pretty much everything. They're like telling you all of the things that we all were like, oh, these are conspiracies. Before conspiracies were like super popular. Like they were talking about stuff that everybody was like, oh, that's funny. No, dude, he said things that straight up we didn't know were going to be true that became true. You know what I mean? Like he said stuff before it was super popular that we didn't know was going to become popular. I mean, down to even like the little girl thing line. Like, dude, it's so disturbing when you look at what he was talking about, everything he was saying.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the time where whenever that song came out would have been not the time I would have ever been looking for symbolism and things, and like really like listening to the lyrics with a keen ear of like, well, what are they saying? What are they trying to? Yeah, so like lots of us, again, before we woke up, these things were right in our faces, right in our ears.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't pay attention to it. And it's probably kind of like, you can imagine the chuckle they would get out of making a song like that later and then saying, these idiots are singing along and they have no idea the words that they're singing. They have no idea what it means. But now that we do know what it means. And so I want to go just right back to another video about the sun, the moon, and the earth. Maybe a biblical cosmology video.
Okay.
The day the sun stood still. Right, so in the book of Joshua in the Bible, the Israelites were fighting the Amorites, and it says in Joshua 10, verse 12 through 14, it says, sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon. And it says the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day.
Amazing.
What's more amazing is when this happened, 1400 to 1500 BC, there's different records from around the world. The sun standing still in China and in Egypt, but in Mesoamerica, the Mayans and Aztecs, they talked about how the night never ended. So it was a full day of just night, and they're all freaking out, so they decided to like do all these mass sacrifices and stuff. Then in Egypt, this one was actually crazy. They said that the sun changed erratically in the sky, so it was setting in the west and then stopped and then started going backwards.
Wow, that'd be wild.
But the proof of the sun standing still in the Bible was accounted for by different cultures around the world.
Think about the record, though. The other religions and regions were thrust into confusion by the narrative. The biblical account is the reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the middle of a conflict. So as far as like, if you were to argue which faith or which place was actually dialed into the causality of the event, our text gives that.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest.
Amen. That's cool, right?
That's pretty epic. That's pretty epic. I got to read all these texts now because like I want to hear what it actually says in recorded, evidence for that. But that's pretty epic.
Yeah, that's kind of funny thing with those the ninjas and butterflies people. I would say a lot of their videos are very interesting. I don't know if they've ever been fact checked as far as what they say is true, but I do know if the Bible says that the sun and moon stopped in the book of Joshua, then I believe it happened. And of course, with the eye or the understanding of biblical cosmology, if this was a spinning ball, then they would tell the earth to stop spinning, not the sun to stop. Because if the sun stopped and the earth was still spinning, well, then it wouldn't change much about the hours of daylight, right? Also, yeah, because they would just said, earth stopped spinning. But the earth did not stop spinning because the earth does not spin, because the Bible says that the earth is stable. 50 verses says the earth is stable or unmovable. What say you, Brian?
I don't know,
Where's your heliocentric model in that?
My thought is this: like, if you try to like think of like how the Earth would stop spinning, try to think of like what is a scenario. That sort of experience where the sun stopped spinning is undeniably unscientifically explainable. Like, it's not, you cannot explain it without God stepping in some supernatural, like, I'm trying to think like maybe a comet hit the earth at one point and it like somehow jolted so hard that it caused the earth to stop, but why would it start back up spinning again is unreasonable. So it's like, how could it possibly like be an act without God just reaching his hand in and stopping it and going, nope, we're going to pause for one moment here and let this continue. And that just seems so like impossibly epic. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's got to be, there's no, like, you know what I try to think of a lot of things in the Bible. Like, there's like the pillars of smoke and the pillars of cloud and the pillars of fire, like when Moses was leading out of the Egypt that he was led by. And I could easily explain that to be like, oh, well, those are probably tornadoes. They probably were following cloud pillars that were tornadoes. And then when they got to the Red Sea, the tornadoes came back down into the sea, sucked up the water, and maybe they walked across the water, right? I like to think of God in a sense where it's like he controls science. So he's not outside of the realm of science, right? It's like he's one with science. Yeah, but he can break the rules of science too at the same time, but he doesn't really have to. But the stopping the earth thing, that's really interestingly insane.
He didn't stop the earth. He stopped the sun and the moon.
Well, stopping the sun and the moon. Either like stopping that function is really fascinating.
Well, I mean, yeah, clearly God can use whatever means he wants to because he's God. He can do whatever he wants to do, and he created everything. So he could obviously use natural phenomenon to show his power. And he does. I think that's clear also in the Bible. It's also clear that when he comes in judgment, a lot of times he uses foreign nations and armies to destroy places. He could rain down fire from heaven, but sometimes he doesn't. I mean, he definitely does in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but then later he uses the Assyrians in Babylon to carry out the day of the Lord, and I believe the Romans as well. So God can do whatever he wants. I kind of resist that idea that like the Red Sea parting could be explained by a natural phenomenon, because I think that I've seen people try to do that, and I feel like it's like you're trying to explain something without saying that God just did it. You know, because the Bible doesn't say that it was caused by X, Y, or Z. It just says that God parted the Red Sea.
Parted it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
and it does say it was like walls. Doesn't it say it was like walls of water?
Yeah, there were like walls, and it was not just, it was dry land in between. They walked across dry land. The point is, God did it, and also the point in that story was that the God showed his power. That was the whole reason he was hardening Pharaoh's heart, was because if Pharaoh would have let God's people go right away, then he would not have been able to show all the plagues of Egypt and to show everybody who is the Most High God. So that was the reason he hardened Pharaoh's heart. So there would be stories going out. And of course, in the story of Jericho, Rahab actually said to the spies, we've heard what happened in Egypt. And so there was many people in the land of Canaan knowing, like, what happened? Who are these people? Who's their God? And so in the story of Rahab, she feared the Lord. She helped the spies, and then she was eventually in the line of Jesus. So point being is that, yeah, clearly, I mean, you think about, like, obviously even the pagan mythologies about how Zeus's thunderbolts. So lightning came from one of the gods. That was a sign of, like, gods from heaven. So yeah, in the same kind of way that they could have viewed things that we view as natural phenomenon and said that came from a god who did that. So yeah, that could also be the case too. But yeah, I just think it's cool. I do think it's cool. I'm not sure if those accounts are correct. And of course, I know based on the chronology, it would be probably impossible to take those other accounts across the world, knowing our chronology is a mess, and saying it was right then. But it also would make sense as well that there would be stories and mythologies from these other places about how when there was no sun,
funny.
Because if the sun stopped over whatever, like the middle of the world, well, it would not have made its way over to the Americas, and therefore it would have been dark. And would it surprise me if they were doing all kinds of crazy rituals, these wicked pagan people at that time, because the sun didn't shine? And that would obviously be a bad omen, that their gods were angry. No, it would not surprise me in the least. I mean, I could believe that could happen.
I mean, like, how would they know what their sense of time is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be an interesting one, because I feel like people back then didn't have watches. So it's like, you know,
I think you'd know if you slept for a while and it was dark when you woke up that it would be unusual.
Yeah, but like you're just like keep
I don't
going.
know exactly
like,
what I mean. Well, I mean,
why are we all awake?
Put it this way.
I'm awake. Are you awake?
A sundial is a clock. The sky is a clock. So if you woke up and then you're like your sundial's not working that day, you'd be like, it's like hitting this watch. It's like it's not.
The moon dial isn't working.
The moon dial is not working.
I mean,
no, I think these people were very in tune with the celestials, the sky clock. So they would know. These people they
probably have a really good internal clock.
These people were not stupid.
And I think that's super interesting though. Yeah, I just like to think it's like I do wonder, like, at what point is God's ability, does he just do things that are like what we're looking for supernatural, but sometimes the supernatural is natural. Like sometimes supernatural is the way God, it's natural, but it's supernatural, but it's still like kind of like normal. Like it's like God does miracles, and then sometimes people are like, yeah, but maybe that was just going to happen. Like the woman that gets healed by touching Jesus's garment. It's like, well, you know, maybe she got healed by Jesus, but maybe it was just like her time, and maybe there was something she ate last week, or, you know, like that's literally what I think. I see humans writing these kind of things off all the time, and it's like, but something like the sun stopping or Moses crossing the Red Sea, if there was walls of water and dry land, that's like undeniable. You couldn't go like, oh, well, maybe it was just, this is like a weird natural phenomenon. You couldn't write it off.
No, I think it goes into the category of faith like a child. If the Bible says God did this, God did it. How did he do it? I don't know. He's God. Yeah. You know, unless the Bible gives an explanation. You know, I want to go to another video real quick. Let's pop over here, because we talked a little bit about the Exodus, and a lot of people know in the story of the Exodus is the golden calf. What if there's still golden calves today, Brian?
I mean, I could see it.
Are you a Christian, by the way?
I am.
Okay. Does that well, exactly. You know the story of Moses, huh? From the Bible.
Yes.
And they're worshiping what?
Oh yeah, the golden bull. Exactly.
And now here we all are grasping the genitals of the golden bull, which represents abundance, wealth, fertility.
Maryland.
Hey, this is Cam from Christspiracy in NYC at Wall Street and the Stock Exchange to talk about what this really stands for. Do you know what the word capital means?
I don't know, maybe head.
The head, exactly.
Educated.
So cap, as in the head of cattle, because herding cultures that established wealth, their value was established on the head of the animals that they subjugated. So the first form of wealth was livestock, live stock. So I'm here at the end of Wall Street, as you can see, and just below the sign, halal food is being sold. And then right at the end of the intersection here at Wall Street is a church. And then just below the church, if you look, there's gyros being sold with lamb, chicken, and beef. It doesn't get any more Christ-spiracy than that.
Is there a right way to kill a beast? Justified imagery of blood on the streets.
What do you think, Brian? Do you think that there's something to that? Do you think that the bull of Wall Street represents Moloch, the golden calf?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the stock exchange, the livestock. I mean, 100%. Everything you said, I totally agree with it. I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like the bull that's at the stock exchange, that is the golden bull. That is the golden calf. That's exactly what that is. Like 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was just looking this up just because I didn't know what it meant when he was talking about the food card that had halal on there, right? And
Oh yeah, it's like the permissible food by the Muslim or Arabic
permissible
people.
or lawful in Islamic law.
Yeah.
It
They've got
talks about
special
halal
food.
encompasses just a dietary restrictions. It also includes ethical considerations such as
How the
humane
animal
treatment of
was
animals
clean.
during slaughter.
Yeah, how the animal is killed. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean that is interesting. Of course, that old world cathedral that's right there. Of course, I don't think he made that conspiracy. He didn't put that together with Christ. But yeah, there's so much going on there where, yeah, I've been reading Ecclesiastes. I started that this morning again, and there is nothing new under the sun. That all this stuff, and yeah, so like the view of what you would view wealth back in the day. Of course, that's like if you go back to the times of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, that's how they were viewed as being wealthy, is they had much cattle, they had much livestock, and yeah, so livestock, stock exchange.
Dang. It's the livestock exchange is what it is.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I mean that's yeah, people are taking pictures holding the bull's balls. Like, what is that?
Disturbing.
Like, what's going on with that?
I mean, it's just like demonically ridiculous that that's happening, and those people are just being made a mockery of themselves, and they don't even see it. They think it's funny.
It makes a lot of sense.
You're being mocked.
It makes a lot of sense, though, when you think about the idea that, again, so we know that ancient peoples viewed bulls as some kind of divine thing. But it's kind of like, why do they consider them divine? Well, you obviously have in the zodiac, you have the Taurus, right? I do believe that in the Bible, you can see clear parallels between bulls and deities. It talks about in Psalm 22, the bulls of Bashan were encircling Jesus when he's on the cross, like the prophecy about that. So that's why you have the devil often depicted with horns, because even the altar has horns. Like horns is something that people consider as something coming from some kind of god being. Probably even the goat. The goat has horns. But it makes even more sense when you would see a bull as a sign of wealth, a sign of fertility. Because that fits all together with what these pagan festivals were about. Would be about wealth, fertility, obviously kind of like sex fests and things like that. And they're gods. It's all together, and it makes, again, it's all connected.
It's just witchcraft. It's just blindly posted right in front of your face, and people miss it.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, you know what? You want to watch? This is a really interesting one, and this will be some kind of old world, but the narrative says it's not old world, but that's where we will probably likely disagree. But Brian, have you seen this video? This one is really, really interesting, and a lot of people have talked about this.
You guys, I think I found it. This is the big one. This guy said, look into the Parliament building in Romania that was built in the 80s, and you're not going to believe the story on this one. So this is the biggest building in the world, the heaviest building. It weighs over 9 billion pounds. 4.5 million tons, and it went up in the 80s. And there's not a single construction photo of it. This is all I could find. Look, they are digging it out. And look, it's dirty. It's messy. It needs to be cleaned off. It's supposed to be brand new. And then this is the other one with some stuff up next to it, but it's finished. Guys, the story's so stupid. It said that this dictator really wanted a palace. And so he had a competition, and this 28-year-old chick, when she was 28, won it. She was in charge of 700 architects and like 10,000, 30,000, the number doesn't matter, laborers. It said a lot of it was forced labor and that the army helped. These aren't even skilled craftsmen. Guys, what in the... There's not a photo of the construction. I dare anyone, please go look. I looked and looked and I couldn't find a single photo of the construction of this magnificent place they say was built in the 80s. Do you see what I'm talking about? They just print shit. They just lie in front of you, and they have guns and you don't. And that's all of our history books. We're like, they couldn't pull the wool over our eyes. We knew what was going on into the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. You don't know shit. You didn't know about the biggest building in the world and that there's not a single construction photo for it other than the one of them digging it out. I think this is the smoking gun of smoking guns, unless someone can prove me wrong and say, no, they absolutely built this palace for parliament under a sociopathic dictator. Had this chick built? What are we talking? How is she not celebrated? How is this not the most talked about person on earth? You all know about Mr. Eiffel. This chick rivals him. What a ridiculous, ridiculous narrative.
I don't know, man. Mm-hmm.
So that building was built in the 80s. And I think that is really interesting because I've seen more stories like that where I think it's really easy probably to hide stuff in the narrative when they push it back to the early 1900s or the late 1800s, because everyone's dead who would have been alive to see it. But in the 80s, like that's really weird. But I've seen a lot more stories like that recently where, again, you think about it, it's like Romania, would that have been back in the Soviet bloc? That would have been behind the Berlin Wall, right?
I think so.
So there would be lots of stuff that could be hidden in the Soviet territory that the West would have no idea if it was there. So 1984 would have been in the same time period where, what was the Berlin Wall? Did it get ripped down in like 1989 or something like that?
I don't remember.
And we would only really have had propaganda about what happened on the other side of that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, also, you had a bunch of like just evil people ruling those people. So they would be nothing for them to just demolish things or just lie and just tell a false history. Of course, the big propaganda and the big lie is that on the other side of the wall, it was run by evil people who lied about our history too, which is, they're maybe not as brutal about it. It's more of a subtle, the lies are got a little more nuance to it. And it's harder for them to control people because they don't literally have machine guns pointed at them. But yeah, like that's crazy. That building, the biggest building in the whole world, based on weight, in Romania?
Built by some chick.
Well, it was a 28-year-old architect. And then she was in charge of like 300 other architects.
That's crazy.
Again, that's a kind of a similar story to a lot of these stories where you have this, especially like in the old times, you had somebody who won a contest to be the architect. And then they just build, and it's typically a castle they built. This narrative is ridiculous, but yeah, the more you see that, so if you guys in the comments, you guys tell us if that guy was wrong. I'm not going to spend the whole show talking about that building. Tell me you can find another construction photo. And don't show me something with the building already built with scaffold around it, because that does not count. That's typically what is used as evidence. Oh, they built this building. Look, here it's under construction and there's just scaffolding around a 95% completed building.
Uh-huh.
Now, see, what I have often thought, what if that building was already there, as he's showing, like it could have been dug out? What if the timeline of when it was built was literally when it was refurnished or restored?
That's totally what I would think it was happening.
That makes a lot more sense, because I would say that if you could justify almost any one of these old buildings, the timeline, if you said this wasn't actually the total from putting the foundations, getting the site done, building the building completely. If you just said this building was founded,
Yeah, I was going to say founded,
and it took a year or took 2 years to restore it and to be repurposed for modern use.
and then they just changed our terminology. So it was probably founded that year in the 80s, and it took a bunch of architects to reestablish it to create its founding, because they found it.
Yeah, or the architects were about that. You could say that maybe they were involved in fixing parts of it to trying to make it still structurally sound and all that kind of stuff. But that's really sus. That's really sus. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and get controversial here. So Brian and I we've talked about you guys have heard of Nathan Reynolds. So Nathan Reynolds has been on the rounds on these podcasts, and lots of people really love his stories. Some of us are not too fond of his stories because, for one, there's like an endless amount of them. And one of these just really, I can't say, I'm not going to show that many of them. I'm going to show one, and then me and Brian can talk about it. We talked about it a little bit on Ancient Angels, and I know a lot of people were probably upset with us for talking about him because he's beloved. Upset. He's beloved. And he makes all the rounds on all these podcasts, and he tells
fabricated stories. I mean, wonderfully amazing stories.
He tells some of the most badass crazy stories you've ever heard in your whole life. Now, the real question is, are they legitimate? So let's just watch a video, and then we can talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Apollo has a very different approach because he is still bound. He is not risen. He is in darkness in the bottomless pit and locked up. And if you want to go talk to him, you have to be a carrier of the X, which is the covenant of his kingdom, a child of his throne, and be able to die, go down into the bottomless pit and talk to him. So they literally performed a medical procedure, like a table like this, all surgical steel room. And it was deep, like a bathtub, with a drain in the center. And they laid me inside there. And they brought in a group of people dressed in robes, but nothing special, like dudes, creeps, freaks. But then they brought in a different thing who was completely covered in blood, like huge quantities of blood, like 5 gallons of 5-gallon buckets worth of blood. I know how much blood it takes to cover a person. And he was covered in blood, like he had stood under a shower and bathed in blood, red, vibrant, fresh blood. And he was not human, not like the others. And then another one of those came in all in blue, like sapphire blue, cold as ice, devoid of life, not charged up whatsoever. And one stood at my feet and the other stood at my head. And they began to bring in this piece of equipment, which was huge, like a rolling refrigerator. And they brought it into the side of the table and they hooked me up to an IV and ran my blood into this machine that was like similar to a dialysis machine, but different. And then they began to pour buckets of ice onto my body, filling up the tub. Meanwhile, these guys around are chanting and doing this incantations in the tongue of the Nahash, which sounds like gibberish, slow motion video that's run backwards. And it's very disturbing. But as they pulled the blood out of my body, I began to go into hypothermia. And then I went into cardiac arrest until they pulled the blood out of my body and were cooling it down further inside there till I died. And when I died, they were casting me into Sheol. They were casting my spirit down with this ritual to go and speak to Apollo, to go and talk to him.
Yeah. So what did Apollo say? I mean, that's all I got. That's my curiosity. What did Apollo say? You know what I mean?
I guess I was curious about that too, but I wasn't curious enough to watch that episode of The Confessionals because, I mean, like let's just be honest here. For one, okay,
it's appointed that every man should die once, and then comes judgment. Not die multiple times and just keep coming back. And
well, I mean, let's just say from our perspective in the little season, we would say no. Apollo is not in the bottomless pit anymore.
No, he's not.
Apollo is in the lake of fire. He's done because Apollyon is the king of the bottomless pit that comes out in Revelation chapter 9. He's loose. But then right before the millennial reign starts, Apollo, which would have been the beast and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. And then so after the millennial reign, later the devil gets thrown into the lake of fire, where the beast, which is Apollo,
and the false prophet
already are. So for that perspective, but I mean, come on, guys. Like, when you think about that, the bottomless pit, do you think that there's a cheat code to get to the bottomless pit? And if there was, would you want to go down there?
And if somebody that's been to that bottomless pit down there, you think they're just going to let him go?
Right. You really think about it. Like, who does God send to the bottomless pit? The absolute worst of the worst. You ain't getting a cheat. You ain't going down there and coming back up. I mean, of course, it's like that is. I mean, the whole idea of the bottomless pit is this is the most secure prison ever, right? This is not Jeffrey Epstein's cell, right? We'll talk about that later. But this is the place where you put the baddest of the bad, the worst of the fallen, Tartarus. You put something down there that will never be able to leave until God allows it, and then there's judgment afterwards. So this man claiming that these elites, again, it's kind of like that you're giving these elites way too much power, like they have access to the bottomless pit. Just think about it, even in the times of Jesus, remember when he's casting out the demoniac, and they're like, oh no, son of man, don't send us into the abyss. They're like, this is not the appointed time. And because they realize that the abyss is no joke. You ain't coming back from the abyss. Like those spirits, those were going down there, and they were going down there forever. And when they are released, they're going into the lake of fire. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just kind of like that when you hear some of Nathan Reynolds' stories. Here's the thing about him. I've heard him on several podcasts where I've listened to parts of him, and I'm like, dang, this guy is very knowledgeable about lots of things. He's very
a little
convincing.
too knowledgeable sometimes. I mean, like the fact that he knows that there's exactly 5 gallons of buckets of blood is what you need to cover somebody fully in blood. Like, I mean, what if he was in a bathtub of blood? You don't know that, but he needs 5 gallons of blood poured on him, fresh blood, and then he knows this, and then he knows that it's like a dialysis machine. It's like basically a dialysis machine as he's laying there being, I don't know what they're doing to him, and and he's like, oh yeah, that's like a dialysis machine. Yeah, yeah, bro. I like he knows a little too much than the average person. It's almost like he's making it up.
Well, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. If you were ever put in a situation like that, like, what would you remember about it?
Yeah, I know. You come out remembering all of it.
I imagine you would remember just like it would be very hazy because you'd be terrified,
bro,
about what was about to happen. So it'd be really hard to make out all the real details about exactly what was happening. It's kind of like when you hear like abduction stories, and it's like just kind of foggy details, and they it almost gives it more credibility that if you were terrified in a situation like this, which you would be because they're about to kill you and put you and send you to the bottomless pit, you would be really.
The dude some blue guy, and then the guy covered in blood.
Yeah, it's kind of like the contradiction too. It's like
it's not human.
It's like the surgical procedure, but it's also this witchcraft procedure. I guess the thing with Nathan, he's like, yeah, again, I've heard him say some stuff that was like, dang, it was like he put some things together that I was like, oh, I was pretty impressed. And then I got to hear him talk about when he was a killer.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it in ways that if you're reborn in Christ, you would not revel in that past life that he once lived. But he
doesn't, JT. He doesn't. He just, he's like, he's so remorseful of it. He's so remorseful.
Well, I mean, I guess here's the thing, and I said I don't judge people, but I would say this: that Brian and I often talk about very dark topics. And Brian and I both have pasts. And I'll hint at some of the stuff that I once did, but I don't really revel in it. I don't like to celebrate it. I like to celebrate what God had done for me and changed me. But that kind of stuff is in the past. And so when you have a show like The Confessionals, where this is like demon porn, right? Because it's like the people are like, not to get too graphic, they're like getting off on hearing these stories about how evil and wicked and demonic and the blood and the demons and all the Nephilims and dragons and mermaids he's talking about in these stories about how he was ripping people's throats out and he was
with his
gutting people and
with his teeth.
And you're like, how does this bring glory to God to do that?
It does
And
not.
so that's the kind of question that you have to have, because at some point it's kind of like is it Ephesians 5:12 that it's shameful to even talk about these things that happen in the dark?
Yeah, it's shameful to talk about the things done in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like when you kind of talk about it in this way, like I said, I'm not going to judge Tony from The Confessionals, but I mean, like, there is how many videos of him clipping Nathan Reynolds talking about the most weird, demonic, detailed accounts with just ending it with like, yeah, what did Apollo say? Where is Jesus in the story? Like, where's the redemptive part of this story? And I'm not saying the whole podcast doesn't include that, but I'm saying that this is what this is being used for. So this is why it's obviously nauseating when it shows up in my For You feed about what this guy's saying. And let's be perfectly honest. This guy is claiming that he's being hunted by the Illuminati. He's not keeping a very low profile if he's doing this. And he's talking about it like this. So what's true? If these people are really hunting him, it seems like he's pretty accessible. Probably because he does podcasts all the time. And he tells all dark and dirty secrets. Like, what are we supposed to do with that? I mean, I guess to me, it's like that he's encountering mermaids. Like, it's like not a thing. Dragons and...
Talking dragons
like Smaug from The Hobbit and all that kind of stuff. I will give him this. He's a good storyteller. He's a good talker. But yeah, like you said,
so is Satan. All demons are great storytellers.
It's like too good. Too good.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when you mentioned the trauma thing, bro, I deal with so much dark stuff, guys. Like, I'm on here. I'm a smiley person all the time, but man, the amount of dark things that I deal with, I hear the most atrocious stories and experiences of people's lives all the time. And these people, I deal with people that have gone through trauma. Dude, they don't talk like Nathan talks. Not a single one of them. Okay, I'm not seeing somebody that's just like, yeah, and this is fine and blah blah blah. Like, bro, that to me, I can see a lying spirit when I recognize it, and I can see it right away. And like, those demonic spirits will get into people, and they'll make up stories, and they'll want to convince people of their narrative, because it feeds some satiated desire for, figuring things out. And the thing is, it just veers you away from the truth. The reality is this: the world is a lot more complicated and a lot more spiritual than you think. Okay, and it's not so physical like people that make up stories like to put it in that physical sense, like they got all the answers for the Nephilim. And like the Nephilim are just hiding in some secret underground layer. Okay, like, dude, it's way more complicated than that. But the truth is that hearing stories like this and giving into stories like this is just, it feeds into the lack of spiritual understanding that you're supposed to be called to operate in. It says those that worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth, not in made up nonsensical stories of science, of whatever, I don't know. But it's just a demon influencing a person to speak on behalf of these fictitious stories. And he doesn't show any of the sign when he talks about the stuff. Like, people that have gone through trauma don't talk like he does. Like, he just knows all the parts about it. They talk like I don't remember. Like, this happened, I think, and they're kind of out of it when these kind of things happen. And so like, he's just like explaining it like it's Tuesday, and you're just like, I
Yeah,
don't know, man.
100%. That's exactly what it is. Like that he is so salient, like he's so in the moment that he remembers he was like he's telling a story like he's reading a book, right? And then like an author who's like really
And
telling
with
you
passion. He's like
because
telling
you
it with
can't-
these passion.
right? Because it's
Like, bro,
because
if you hear somebody that's like, and then they stabbed my mother. Yes, they just stabbed her. Like, bro,
and I smelled a certain smell at that moment, and then
That's
it's
not
like
how you
really
talk about that kind of stuff.
It feels like that you are it's like it's written word, right? Because
like
because
poetry.
it's trying to explain every detail of a room, but I mean, like, that's not how we typically soak things in our reality, the way we kind of would be able to tell a story. It's so descriptive where it sounds like a work of fiction.
Because it probably
right?
is.
You're really setting the tone. You're explaining every little weird detail. When again, if you're strapped down to a table, are you noticing everything? I mean, because you would have been like, he'd be able to see at a part of his eye to see, because he wouldn't be able to see all the details about what's
It'd be like
happening.
they brought in some machine thing. I don't know if I was hooked up to it. It'd be like they plugged me into stuff. Like that's usually how the stories are.
Well, it would kind of be like that for when you probably be drugged.
Yeah, you would
right.
remember
They're probably not doing this to you sober, so you probably be like almost under anesthesia, and then before you know it, it's like you woke up, and then what just happened? You don't know what happened. I mean, like, yeah. So with that being said, I want to show a video about this, and I think the one thing that I want to make clear is that I can almost believe that he believes what he's saying. And we might have an explanation of why he's so sure these things happen.
Demon possessed people, when they get demons, they believe the lies they tell. That's very normal. They can't tell the difference between true or fake, and it's not their fault. It's just they've gotten something demonic in them because of rejection. A spirit of rejection rests on Mr. Reynolds, and he's been rejected so much that making up these stories kind of found him a place of acceptance.
Very likely, but let's get into the idea of MK Ultra.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about MK Ultra. This was a secret CIA brainwashing program that started in the 1950s. The CIA successfully figured out how to master the art of mind control. They experimented on sex workers, prisoners, people with terminal illness, and foster children. Many of the subjects had no idea that they were even part of this experiment. They would hypnotize and load these subjects with LSD to see the effects that they had on the mind. They would also torture these subjects nearly to death, which led to trauma-based mind controlling. They figured out that you could fracture a subject's mind so that they would have a split personality disorder. Then they would insert a new mind into the void. They could program you to be an assassin. This was their main objective. They wanted to control people who could kill on command. It's noted that this is why the Mansons occurred. Charles Manson was at the same prison that they targeted for MK Ultra. Subjects would commit these acts of murder and have no memory or moral compass of what occurred. It's noted that there are many celebrities who are under the influence of MK Ultra. What's even more crazy is that the CIA tried to destroy every document pertaining to MK Ultra. The only reason we know about it is because of the information that was accidentally found on financial documents as well as eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, so what I've learned about MK Ultra, and he obviously touched on it there, was that what they were trying to do was they were trying to erase memories and implant false ones. And they would fracture mind. And like literally they're trying to put a different mind in you. I mean, so what if this guy he is telling some truths about being traumatized through some kind of wicked means, wicked families, whatever, satanic ritual abuse stuff. But the stories he's telling now, they never happened. But he believes they happened, and that's why he tells it with such conviction. But yeah, it's too detailed. Again, if it's actual real trauma, again, that's the part of like what the disconnect. If what he's saying is some of these things happened to him, he would have likely been like most other victims of this stuff, where their mind fractures and then they can't remember all the details because their mind literally splits because I can't deal with this real trauma because it's so intense. that my mind has to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And therefore, you would not be in the moment to be able to tell such clear, detailed accounts about such wicked, wicked things that happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it several times. People that have gone through an immense amount of trauma, there's a block in their mind, and they're usually broken, and they need a lot of demons to leave them. And, you know, MK Ultra is very real. Like, guys, MK Ultra is literally the cause. It's like everybody's being MK Ultra at this point. You all are being MK Ultra. You don't even realize it. But it is a trauma-based mind control. They do group trauma mind control things, like the Challenger shuttle blowing up. That was a trauma that was designed to affect society. That's called mass hypnosis. So they do trauma-based mind control events and then try to program you with stuff. And this is, you know, and you're in such a trauma state that you cling to whatever reality is fed to you in the moments afterwards, and you don't have time to evaluate it, and it goes into your deep psyche, and it embeds there. And this is part of like how hypnosis and trauma-based stuff works. So it's like it's all tethered to trauma. I mean, demons get access to those void spaces in your mind, and then they interject the demons into them. They were actually working not just with like, you know, occult stuff, like, or just sciencey things and drugs. They were working with like witchcraft too, by the way, with MK Ultra. They were doing satanic rituals
everything.
and occult practices that have been documented. It wasn't just like, oh, we're just doing this trauma thing. No, they were interjecting demons into people, into their minds after they would traumatize them, and evoking spirits to control the person, to knock them out. So they weren't even aware of what was going on. It was like they've subjugated themselves and relinquished their rights for a demon to take over and control the person. Okay, that wasn't even them in their body anymore at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what the other thing about it too is the fact that, let's just say this was real. You probably wouldn't enjoy telling these stories.
No.
On podcasts. You never heard about like trigger words and stuff like that? Like him openly talking about these things would be tough. Would probably be almost impossible, because that kind of trauma is not something you gladly talk about all the time. It's kind of like, you can imagine if some of this stuff was real, he went on a podcast and he talked about it, and it would be very difficult for him to do it. And he did it once. But then the confessional says, come back on. How many more you got? And Nathan says, got an endless supply.
Endless stories.
I've got an endless supply of them. How many you want me to tell? I'll tell them all. And you know what? I want to show a quick video, and maybe we'll show one more video, and we'll talk about this a little bit, because this relates.
One more thing I want to say before we go, though. This is not to say that Nathan has not been traumatized. Nathan's probably been molested as a child. Okay, Nathan's probably been traumatized. He's probably been, really bad stuff has probably happened to him. He's probably been rejected a lot, or neglected, or abandoned, you know. And even if it wasn't major trauma that's happened to him, it could have just been simple trauma, and he became a compulsive liar, because, you know, trauma is relative, guys. So something traumatic happened to him that, you know, the stories that he's telling aren't the stories that happened, though. You know, it could have just been his parents divorced, and maybe his dad didn't want to talk to him or something, you know, and some traumatic thing happened to him, and that trauma evoked a spirit in that void space. In that void space, the demon came in, and the demon, for whatever reason, it loves telling stories. Demons love movies. They love story. They make all the movies you watch. Like, demons make up stories all the time. It's their favorite thing to do, to pervert the truth. They tell different stories. That's literally what they do. And that story is being told to turn Christians away from recognizing that everything's ran by demons, not ran by, and instead think that it's ran by these Nephilim hybrid offsprings that are hiding in the shadows. No, fool, it's demons, and they're affecting you and everyone else around you. That's what his story leads you away from. It makes you think that, oh, well, it's just not, demons aren't in me. They're in those people in the tunnels, you know. No, they're in everyone, and they're affecting your mind all the time. And the lies that he's putting out are literally designed to stop you from coming to that recognition, realization. It's demons, bro. It's always demons.
I was gonna say it's demons, bro. And of course, as you mentioned, that this stuff is common in the movies, in the TV. So I'm gonna play one of my videos to show you something about that. Yeah, I mean, I think Stranger Things shows you a lot of stuff. What's fascinating about that show is that it's actually based on a true story. Most people don't know about that. It's based on this story about Camp Hero, where literally those 3-letter agencies were doing experiments on children and animals in this former Air Force base. Were they trying to open up portals? Yeah, I think they were. They were getting these kids to astral project and all that stuff. Think about the story of 11. So her name is 11, which again, in all the witchcraft stuff, 11, Aleister Crowley said that was the magic number. And then later in the show, they start calling her El. And El, Elohim, El means God. I mean, just think about the monster in the first one is the Demigorgon. There is a demon called the Gorgon, these mythologies. Like, that's a real entity. So when they're talking about the demon Gorgon, it's literally a demon. Guys, there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah, so I mean, that's the kind of stuff that could have happened to him. Yeah, that's the thing. We're not saying that he was not traumatized, as Brian said. And we're not saying that everything he says is false, but I do kind of think it's like that idea what Brian was saying about a lot of these things are spiritual. And I'm one of those people who believe, and I know that a lot of people like the Blurry Creatures people, probably like the confessionals people, they want all these things to be physical and all to be witnessed and be able to be tangible and touchable. But I've always said that I thought that, like, when you hear about like alien abduction stories, just think about it like this. Let's just say that these people really were abused and they really were taken some places. But what if it wasn't little green guys or little white guys with big eyes doing it? What if it was that's what they remembered because they were traumatized and the physical things that happened to them probably were done by actual people and their memories were messed up. So all they really know is it's kind of like they have very foggy details and they've lost time and they were abused, like literally abused. And so when they tell people, oh gosh, aliens did it, then their abusers are thinking like, good, no one will ever believe what actually happened to them. And we're not saying it wasn't satanic, we're saying it was. But I think that in a lot of cases that like demons are not physically punching somebody, but I mean, people are punching them that are possessed by demons. Even think about this, like if you guys have seen the movie Fight Club, the character Edward Norton, he's possessed by the spirit Tyler Durden. He's literally beating the crap out of himself in more than one scene. And he wakes up and he thinks he got into a fight with an actual person. The whole movie, he doesn't know that there's not this other guy. It's him. He's possessed by a demon. So he could tell you these very detailed stories about these things that never friggin' happened. Because it was all in here because he was possessed by a spirit and he doesn't remember. He doesn't know where Tyler Durden ended and where he began. So if that's true, think about it. So in the story of, Stranger Things, that's the story of Camp Hero, Project Montauk. They were messing with these kids. And so think about like when this kid astral projects, I think some of them, they're like trying to astral project to like Mars and the moon and whatever else. Like what their memories of what happened there, did that really happen? Or is that literally just like they are leaving their body and then some spirit is possessing them and then they have these false memories of all the things that happened? And I think that's the kind of thing where obviously if you watch a show like Stranger Things, it's presented in a very fantastical way where like there's literally a portal against the wall, right? Where this monster comes out. Well, if you really think about it, if there's an upside down, which I kind of believe there is, I think that kind of stuff is kind of legit, that there is this world that we cannot see that is right where we're at, then you wouldn't need a hole in the wall for the monster to come out. The monster's already here. It's really about giving yourself access, giving your person, giving the monster access to your person. And therefore it is real. But the stories where you're like, they're literally interacting with Nephilim and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry, guys. I think that is nonsense. It's either an outright fabrication or a couple options. A couple options. It could just be a pathological liar who obviously got fame for telling these stories. He could be a straight up Fed who is working with 3-letter agencies to try to make all the stuff that we talk about seem so silly and fantastical that any normal person would hear those stories and say, this guy is out of his mind. So then,
and then associate everyone else related to him to be out of their mind as well.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's where they're giving, here's our leader, right? Here's the leader of the people talking about demons and Nephilim. It's Nathan Reynolds. So when normal people hear that, they hear our podcast and they're saying, oh, I've heard that before. You guys are nuts like him. No, we're not. Or it could be, like we just said, is that this person experienced real trauma. He believes the things he's saying. And it doesn't mean they're true. It doesn't mean everything he's saying is false. And so what I want to make it clear right now, this is not an attack on him. But what I'm more upset with is people like the people from the confessionals, putting this stuff out there like this, this should not be how you get your kicks. Listen to stories like this. And like I said, I can cut Nathan Reynolds some slack because maybe there was something at the end of that part of that clip that might have turned it back to something positive. But that's not how these things are clipped. They're clipped to just be these spooky supernatural encounters. And it's demon porn is what it is.
Yeah. So the thing that I would like to say is that, you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now. Demons can plant thoughts. I've literally witnessed this. I have seen them erase and wipe memories and plant false thoughts into people's heads. See it all the time. That's one of the things demons can do. They're very good at it. And they can plant their own memories and their own thoughts as well. Things that they've experienced. So people, this is how you get false memories. Okay, you get false memories from demons interjecting their thoughts into the people. So that's totally a thing that can happen. So this is within the realm of what demons are capable of doing. They don't have a lot of control in the physical sense, but in the spiritual space or the mental space, that's where demons reign king. Okay, and they can totally wipe your memory. I've literally witnessed one of my friends saw one of his friends full on manifest a demon. And that dude, the demon possessed dude, touched my friend on his forehead, went like this, boop. And my friend's eyes just went like this. And bro, the next day, didn't even remember what happened. He watched his friend speak another language. Some white kid start speaking ancient Hebrew and Arabic and like start speaking demon out of his mouth and knew stuff about me and everybody else. And like, dude, touched him and boop, gone. He was like, we talked to him afterwards and he was like, I don't really remember what happened. Like, and I'm like, how do you not remember what you just witnessed? Like, dude, I've seen it several times now at this point. You know that, and like I've talked about this on my channel about that one experience, but like, bro, they can wipe memories, they can plant memories. People that they go past life regression stuff. Bro, what you are doing is remembering a demon's made up story in your head. You'll go, oh, or maybe you are actually remembering a real story from the demon that possessed a person from the 18th century. And you're like, oh, this is my past life. No, that's the demon's memory. He just interjected his memory into your mind. So demons can give false memories. They can share their memories. Okay, this is how people they think they're being reincarnated. Demon interjects its memories into a person, and all of a sudden they're like, I used to be this person. No, you didn't. You just picked up the demon from the previous guy. Like, this is how this works.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at the end of the day, pray for that guy. Pray for Nathan. Pray for the guy from the confessionals, Tony. I mean, because I think that what I want people to know is that this is not condemnation.
No,
and I'm not questioning anyone's salvation like people like to do with us. But I'm trying to say that, guys, please use some discernment here. If something sounds too crazy, it probably is, and doesn't mean that to not believe everything, but kind of test all things, guys. Test all these spirits. Is like, because this kind of stuff is, at the end of the day, do you think that this is helpful? I mean, I don't think that it is. Maybe that's my opinion, but.
And Nathan Reynolds, if you're watching, buddy, demonerasers.com, go on there, message me, or sign up for my prayer thing. It's every Saturday I pray for people. I will pray for you, bro. You will get the demon off your mind, And you'll be like, whoa, how did I believe? I know you know that some of the stuff you're saying is like nonsensical because I can hear the spirit talking through you when you talk, bro. I can literally hear the demon talking through your mouth.
The voice changes are very disturbing.
It's very obvious. It's very obvious, dude. So like, I know you know somewhat to some degree. So bro, come on the call. I will pray for you. You're going to probably throw up. Something's going to leave you, dude. I see it all the time. We do this all the time. We'll pray. It'll leave you. And bro, you'll feel so much better. And then you can go on and be like, yeah, dude, you can have a better testimony, a testimony of how a lying spirit can really mess up things. Like, bro, you have a way better testimony than just some made up thing.
I would love to hear one day where he doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff anymore. And he wants to just talk about
the Lord setting him free.
How he's been delivered from that stuff.
Bro.
And he can talk and he can move forward, because I do think that the one thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, is I feel like that these kind of stories about the Illuminati and the amount of power they've got and stuff like that, I think that glorifies them. And I think that puts them on a pedestal. But what these people actually are, they're Jeffrey Epstein. So with that being said, this is what they actually are. It's not glamorous. It's not cool. It's not like Lord of the Rings, even though I like to talk about it all the time. It's more like Petals on an Island. Let's watch this.
This is a test. One could say it's the ultimate test to see if you're going to believe anything that this administration says. The Trump administration is releasing a video in both raw and enhanced versions that it says indicates no one entered the area of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held the night he died in 2019. This is the video that the FBI is pointing to as evidence. You know, the video that supposedly didn't exist just a few years ago because all of the footage was accidentally deleted. But guess what? We magically found it again, and here it is. There's also no blackmail operation except for all the alleged blackmail schemes that have already been reported by the media. And I might also add that Epstein was definitely not a spy, except for a direct quote from a former US attorney saying that he was told, quote, Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. I mean, it literally cannot get any more Orwellian than this. The party is telling you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears, and it was their final, most essential command.
I like that guy a lot. I want to be friends with him.
Yeah, James Lee is pretty. He's pretty good. He's on top of it as far as like the kind of news that I find newsworthy.
Dude, he's so epic. Like, we need to hang out with him. James Lee.
Yeah,
I hope
James Lee,
this.
if you're listening, you're welcome on any one of my podcasts, live streams, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that news right there is like, it's hard to imagine that they are so bold as to just say, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe the things we've told you over the past 5 years. Don't believe any of that. By the way, it was all just a conspiracy theory. And the interesting really part about it is to think about it, that the perspective of like the Trump administration is that the deep state's covering it up, the Biden administration's covering it up. But when it comes down to it, he died in 2019 in jail.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. You know, was president in 2019? Donald Trump. So do you know when the Epstein case died? In 2025 under Donald Trump.
Again.
So you can't make this a Democrats versus Republican thing. Even a deep state thing now. Because now you're just saying like that, Trump has become the deep state. His administration is the deep state. And I mean, it's pretty, I guess it's bold. I mean, I'm really surprised about some of these things. I'm not surprised that we are not going to learn anything more than we've already been told. But I am surprised how blunt they were shutting the door to the whole thing. What do you think, Brian?
Well, speaking of shutting the door, do you remember the original door that they posted on CNN? Because that is not the footage of the door that they showed. That's the original door that they showed when they said that his cell was locked and there was no footage of it. And then they released this other door. They're like, oh, this is the actual footage. But this is the door with the tape on it. It's a totally different door.
Well, I want to say that what they were showing is I saw James Lee did a longer video. I'm not going to play that today because it's just too long. But he was showing that the door that they were showing the footage from was to enter the whole complex. And like he was saying that you actually had to go upstairs. It's barely visible to where Epstein's cell was. So this was just entering into that cell block, whatever the block was. So that's when they were saying nobody could see who was coming and going. But the funny part about that is it's really not all that important anyways, because if somebody wanted Jeffrey Epstein dead, they could have used a prisoner who was already in the cell block. They would not have had to leave. It could have been one of the guards who was already there. It could have been
anybody.
It could have been anybody. There's lots of people there. I mean, if he didn't do it himself, it'd only take one other person. So were there other people on that cell in that area? Yes. So there was no security footage right at his door, and I think that was the original account. I could be wrong about this, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they were saying is there was video of like where his door was, but that footage does not exist. So what they say, oh, we got footage of the cell, but it's only the cell block, and so we're only seeing part of the thing, and you can't see who went in and out of his cell. And the funny part about that is that a lot of people have noticed that between 11:59 and 12 o'clock, there was a minute gap where like the film literally skipped. Let's play a video where I was talking about. So there was a minute that was missing from the footage. Let's watch this video real quick.
So this is the footage of Jeffrey Epstein's cell, and it's supposed to be proof by the Department of Justice that no one went inside of his cell and killed him, and that's why they said he commit suicide. But there's just one problem. So if we look at the footage, there's about 11 hours of it. From the minute 11:59 to 12 a.m., it cuts out for 1 minute, and we do not see that footage. Now, I don't know if this is some type of joke, because everyone is starting to figure this out after watching the footage, but there's a whole minute that's completely cut out. Also, what happened to them saying that the cameras malfunctioned or they lost the footage, whatever the heck happened? But now, magically, years later, they recover the deleted footage or the footage that they never had from a different angle that's literally right in front of the cell, and it's the same day we get it where they say there's no client list and that he commits suicide. It's just frustrating because months ago, the Attorney General said the client list was on her desk, and now there is no client list. And now the footage, there's a whole minute that's cut out, and we still have no explanation for that. If we do, I'll keep you guys updated, but just a weird day.
Yeah, so I could be wrong about that. I thought that he was saying like, yeah, that James Lee was saying that like that was not actually the cell 46 was, I think that was the way to get in, but I could be wrong about that. But let's watch Trump's reaction when he's asked about this. This is wild.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the death?
Yeah, sure. If
hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but...
Oh no, Trump, you're a bad guy.
That clip right there was just kind of like, that was a middle finger to all of us who care about what's true. I mean,
Dude.
it's like, oh, you're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It's like, that story just came out about that you guys closed the case. Like, so what do you mean? Like, we're still talking about it. Of course we're still talking about it. You guys campaigned on releasing all the evidence and the client list and all the people, justice for the victims and all this stuff. And now you're saying it's not a blackmail operation. There never was a list. And yes, he unalived himself. What? I mean, it's kind of like, this is the situation where it's like, do not pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. I mean, come on. I mean, to me, I think that's what I was saying. Like, I'm not surprised that this thing just ends without us ever knowing anything. I'm more surprised on how much of a slap in the face it was, and just the disdain he has for the people who supported him and the people who believed that he had any kind of integrity about any of this stuff. I'm not saying I was one of those people, because I know that he lacks integrity, but I did think that, I don't know.
I certainly thought he had
surprised.
more than that.
I thought he had more than this. I'm more surprised because I thought that, if anything, Trump seems like he has been influenced with when people kind of poke him in certain ways, and like when Twitter gets loud and they get on an issue, he seems like he bends. And so his base is just so upset. And this is how he reacts to his base.
Dude.
And, wow, dude, right?
Trump's a baddie. He's a bad guy. He's literally, bro, you told us all that what team you're on, bro. Like, I mean, like, that's just so sad, because I wanted to believe in you. I wanted to have faith in you, Trump. I wanted to have faith that you could try to be good, but now you're just as bad as the rest of them, covering and hiding everything. You're just as bad, bro. Like, you gave us hope, and I hoped in my heart that I knew you had some dark skeletons in your closet, but I was like, maybe you would come out and fight it. And now, dude, you're just as bad as the rest of them. Dude, it's so disheartening. It's so unfortunate. It's like, I don't want to say we're cooked, because we're not, because we have the Lord Jesus on our side. But in a proverbial sense, like, like a lot of ways, there's a lot of negative stuff going on in the world, and Jesus is going to have to do some big work through us. We're going to be the ones that have to do it, by the way, everybody. Don't be waiting for Jesus to show up to fix it. You have to fix it. We have to fix it. We have to talk about this stuff. We have to share these things. And we're coming against AI, trying to take over and control everything to solidify the narrative, because too many of us are talking. That's why AI is, by the way. It's the thing to shut us up.
So, Brian, you've lost faith in Q. That the white hats are still the white. I still see people saying that this is part of the plan.
Gosh, it's so ridiculous.
I've heard people say that the Epstein story was dying down, and so this is Trump putting it back in the spotlight. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, seriously, these people will believe anything. I mean, that's the thing, is like, I don't know that I ever really bought into the Q stuff at all, but I remember, like, when the 2020 election happened, and a lot of people believed there was funny business about the election results, and it was like, so Trump was the president, the Republicans had both houses of Congress, right? And then they had, and all the states that there was alleged funny business, it was like the Republicans controlled all of the majorities in these Congresses in these states. And they even had all these Republican governors. And it was like, but for some reason, the 5D chess said that he was going to use all kinds of other different ways in order to try to challenge the election results and expose all the bad people. And you're like, but all he really needs to do is, they control the Supreme Court too. So why don't you just use, I don't know, the power that you guys have if you could? But they didn't. And then, of course, we had 4 years of Biden, and now we have this. We have Trump back. And yet, I would say his first 4 years, way better than this. I mean, I know he wasn't perfect, but man, this first half of the first year, he has started he's got involved in another war in the Middle East, right? He was claiming that he was going to stop the war in Ukraine on the same day that he decided that the Epstein case was closed. He announced new aid to Israel, and also that he was going to send more weapons to Ukraine. They also passed the big, beautiful bill, BBB, Build Back Better, 666. He expands the budget like massively, all the amount of just debt deficit spending through the roof. He also even floated the idea of amnesty for certain industries. And then, obviously, he's kissing the ring of Bibi Netanyahu every chance he gets. This is the one thing it's not is America first.
Yeah.
This dude is controlled. This dude is compromised. And all these people in his cabinet, in his administration, are all compromised too. And I want to show you this one clip, and I'll let you talk, Brian. But
even if he wasn't compromised, like at this point, like he could have been a normal person, normal dude that was trying to do well. But at this point, he's been bought. He's been bought and paid for. I don't know what they sold him. I don't know what they showed him. But it seems like he's been either duped, tricked, and he's ignorant, or he's completely sold out. I don't know at this point.
Yeah, check out this clip from Dan Bongino. We've talked about him a few times already.
Man.
But yeah, let's see why maybe we're not learning more about Epstein.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, the defense of Israel.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, the defense of Israel.
The fence of Israel.
So so this guy, right when he's getting nominated to be the deputy director, the second highest person in the FBI, what cause is near to your heart? Israel is his first reaction. Defense of Israel. What does that have to do with being the deputy director of the FBI?
Absolutely nothing. Unless you know something we don't know.
Well, right, because the CIA is supposed to be outside the U.S., right? Central intelligence, but it involves, foreign affairs. The FBI is supposed to be inside the United States. So what is it about Israel? And I want to play this clip from Ben Shapiro because, of course, this lines up kind of rightly with when we were talking when the JFK stuff was coming out, and Ben Shapiro was saying, "I don't care who killed JFK," but why don't you care? And we said at that moment, we were like, I guess he just admitted that Israel did it, because why else wouldn't he care? Who wouldn't care about that? I mean, we should all care. Let's hear his take on the fact that the Epstein case is closed.
We now have the answers. And the problem is this. People who never hedged their bets, people who never at any point suggested to you that they don't have data to back up the speculation, that the speculation was in and of itself the conclusion that if you speculate without evidence, that amounts to an actual conclusion to an investigation, they're going to be very upset today because it turns out that the DOJ and the FBI have concluded that Epstein didn't have a client list and died by suicide, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. Now, again, does this put to bed all inquiries? Of course not. People can continue to speculate as much as they want. And I think there's still open questions here regarding how did Epstein make his money? Right? That's a very serious open question. And the speculation for a long time was he made his money from blackmail. But the DOJ and the FBI, again, run by people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are telling you, I'm not telling you, they're telling you, people who are members of the Trump administration, people you elected and put into these positions to get you the truth on this matter, are telling you that he didn't, in fact, he was not murdered. He did not keep a client list, and he did not blackmail powerful figures. Okay, right? That is the thing that they are saying, not I. They are saying this. If you're willing to throw that over and claim they're lying, then I'd like to see you present your evidence that they are in fact lying. Because I know Dan. I don't think that Dan Bongino is lying to me. I know Kash Patel a little bit. I don't think Kash Patel is lying to me. I don't think these people are lying to me. Which means that if somebody else continues to claim that they're lying, they ought to provide their evidence at this point. And now is the point at which the facts on the ground have changed. And so either you ought to shift your opinion based on the facts that have now emerged, or you ought to acknowledge that this was never a fact-based inquiry in the first place.
What a scumbag. Okay, so we're supposed to provide evidence that they're lying.
How are we going to dig up the evidence, bro? You took it all. Look, what are we?
Yeah, well, how about this? You guys release the documents, and then we can say if they're lying or not.
Yeah.
You know, the ones they were promising they were going to give us?
Yeah, the big books that they put out. Remember those big books they put out relating to it for all the TikTokers?
That was so embarrassing. Man, gosh. I'm glad I'm not the level of influencer where I could get duped by something like, oh, the kitty cat's here. That I could get duped by something like that because they say, hey, you want to come to the White House and get the Epstein binder? Sure. And then they're going to use you as a photo op and make you look like a complete idiot shill now.
Bro, and then
all
they
those
just
people
said,
were just embarrassed now.
Bro, and all those people look at the Epstein files. It's like, oh yeah, it turns out wasn't anything, guys. It wasn't anything.
And it said,
like, well, then what was the whole file about?
Well, of course, it said phase 1 on it as well.
I think they just realized this game is like, they're like, guys, this scheme's not working. They're like, I don't think we can. Let's just pull the plug. We're gonna pull. It was nothing. the nothing plug. Pull this. We're going to have to do it. But people aren't going to buy it. No, they'll buy it. Trust us. They'll buy it. Like, that's literally what has happened.
Well, that's well. I'm going to play one more video. I think we got at least one more on here for this because I think this kind of sums it up. But yeah, that is some gaslighting like I've never heard. It's like that. Okay, so we're supposed to provide the evidence line. Ben Shapiro is going with the defense that Kash Patel was trying to provide on Joe Rogan of like, don't you think that I would release this stuff if it was out there? Do you really believe that I would lie about this? You're like, yes, everyone believes you. You work for a group, an organization that's known for lying. Of course we believe. We don't trust our government. Why would we ever trust somebody who gets into a position of authority like you? This cat. I'm saying like that. I mean, that kind of defense is not going to work with us. And yeah, I got one more video to show because I think Tucker had, I forget the guy's name. I've heard him a little bit, but this guy, he did a podcast today where there was a very salient point made, and this cat is driving me nuts now. Okay, check this out.
Why can't we get an answer to that question? So the whole thing that this tape shows he didn't kill himself is like a joke. But worse than that, it's a joke that we all get. Like, they're not fooling anybody. So I feel like we're at a dangerous point now.
Yeah, I agree, because the lie is more indicative. The lie at this point is not even part of trying to convince any of this is true.
Yes.
The lie is a signal to everybody else involved in the scheme that to the ultimate end, the United States government will go to protect all of you.
Yes.
And that's the for
Man,
what
is that smart.
purpose?
Can you say that again? Okay,
Yes.
so I'm sorry, it's a signal.
The lie is not for you and me. The lie is for those implicated to say, no matter what, we will protect you. And then we have to start asking the question, why? As in, what is the purpose of this entire thing? Why does it matter that it happens right before the Israeli prime minister comes to Washington for the third time? As you said, what is the linkage here between those two? And the linkage is the fact that even a surface level view of Jeffrey Epstein, of the case, of the entire public record, reveals Alex Acosta, who said he belonged to intelligence. He said that. The person who was responsible for the Sweetheart 13-month deal. Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney, said, and I believe he testified this under sworn testimony, said, I was told he belonged to intelligence. That was a key part of why the charges were dropped against him.
It wasn't just any intelligence.
Nope.
It was Mossad. And yeah, so the timing of that with Benjamin Netanyahu coming right in there. But yeah, that was, as Tucker said, that was a fantastic point. Because, yeah, it's like they don't care about us. They don't care what we think. These people are not stupid enough to think that we were going to be satisfied with the way this concluded. It was more, they were telling the people who are involved, the people who are implicated, and the people who control the blackmail, don't worry. We're going to cover this up no matter how bad it looks. We've got your back.
I would say that this is a really good opportunity right now for the left and the right and the wokes and the sheeple to come together, to be completely honest. Right now, everybody that's aware, you can go talk to a sheeple right now and you can say, did you hear about the Jeffrey Epstein case? You can talk to anybody right now. Anyone you can talk to and say, what do you think about that? And they right now will all be like, that is effed. They'll say something like that. They'll be like, that is screwed up. And that is not true. And you can be like, you know what? I think we got something to talk about. And I think this is the reason why they didn't want to pull this plug, because they were afraid we would figure out that this is going to bring unity in us against their plan. And that's why they didn't do it right away, because they knew that there was something, this got too big from the internet. So right now, everybody, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, and we know that. And so you best go out and start talking to some normies about it. This is what I would say. Go talk to some normie people and let people know, hey, and start a conversation and be like, hey, maybe conspiracy theories might be true, don't you think? And like start being like, hey, what do you think about this? Because everybody knows we support the right more than the left in most cases, but right now we don't, obviously. And they're all those crazy leftists are gonna go, you know what? You're not 100% supportive of Trump? Be like, no, we're not 100% support of what's going on. This is a lie. And we're 100% support of truth. And this is very clearly a lie. And all the lefties that they've been manipulating to be these radical crazies, right now, you have an opportunity to make them your friends and to bring us together in some unity and be like, hey, maybe there's more to this that's going on than we realize. And this is what they're afraid of happening. So right now, go make some friends with the crazy lefties. That's what I would say. Go make friends with some crazy lefties. Go make friends with some people on the side, some normies. Go talk to some normies and bring them into the recognition that our government is a wicked, corrupt system, and they're lying to you. They're lying to us all. And that's what I would have to say about this.
Yeah, there's obviously lots of opportunity for common ground. It kind of reminds me, I was just thinking about that quote from the Pirates of the Caribbean saying, oh, you don't believe in ghost stories? Well, you're living in one now. Oh, you don't believe in conspiracy theories? Well, you're living in one now. You're living right through one now. So you better start believing in them. But yeah, guys, on that note, yes, guys, please pray for this country. Please pray for Nathan Reynolds, our president, all the people in government, even though the Bible tells you to pray for your enemies, by the way. So yeah, please pray
we're called
for
to love
place.
everyone.
Yeah, and use this as opportunities to not put your faith in men, but in Jesus Christ alone. And yeah, guys, that's the most important message. That's always where it ends at. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this podcast, please support it through either Modern Roots Life. Again, support your health and this podcast. Win-win. Also, buy a shirt. You can get a Jesus Said There Be Haters shirt. We can get maybe some hats soon. Here, look at this. I was kind of hiding this thing. Yeah, we got some Jesus Said There Be Haters gear. Check out JT Follows JC, link in the description. And also, you can check out this early and uncensored on Patreon. So if you guys want to support me on Patreon, that's a good way to do it and get something in return. And as Brian teased earlier in the show, Brian has got some shirts now too. So if you guys want to get it's Demons Bro, Ancient Angels, all the things. Please support Brian's podcast as well. Link in the description. God bless you guys. Good night.
Good night. Later.
Everyone left me. Everyone deserted me. Jesus was always there. When everyone hated me and walked away, Jesus never walked away.